Hey, hi everybody. Good to be with you. We're talking about sheep right now. We're talking about their proneness to what they call becoming cast. This is a shepherd's terminology, and it relates to what the prophet Joel was talking about when he spoke about people whose souls had become dysfunctional. And we see this in the context of sheep. A shepherd would look across his flock, and every now and then, for a number of different reasons that I hope will be explained to you these next couple of days, these sheep would sometimes become cast. The shepherd would look across the field and he would see his sheep lying on their back with their legs in the air. And the sheep have a strange thing. They have a very funny center of gravity. When they're lying on their back, they find it difficult to get up again, especially in the case of certain conditions. Now, the first condition that a sheep gets cast in is a condition where it becomes too fat. Just eaten too leisurely, not enough exercise. It's just kind of hung around with the herd in lavish conditions. It overeats. It doesn't have an idea of when to stop. So the sheep, just over the course of time, slowly but surely become overweight and fat. When they lie down, that's it, baby. Legs in the air, and they basically suffocate to death, all because they're just too fat. Now, if we relate this to Christians today, I wonder if there's not a parallel for us, and I'm trying to be very kind here, but I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of fat Christians spiritually, people who love to come to church. They're the best sermon connoisseurs around. They can tell you what was a good sermon, what was a bad sermon, who's a good preacher, who's a bad preacher. After all, they go from church to church and they listen to all the preaching and they come up with their own idea about who's the best. And at the same time, while they're listening to all these sermons, and I'm sure there are great sermons that are being preached out there, they do nothing with what they've heard. They just listen, and they have a scale, they have a rating, and they go home after church and they discuss the preacher, and they become fat. They eat too much spiritually. Now, it's great if you're eating spiritually plenty, but you've got to exercise. You've got to do something with what you've heard. And so many people out there are hearing the message and hearing about the message, what to do with the message, but not doing anything about it. And they, like sheep, become fat. Now, in a church context, this is often very, very true, where people come, suss out the sermon, taste it, and then they just go home and do nothing with what they have heard. And so when we eat, we have to exercise. Otherwise, this too could happen. I'm going to tell you, as a preacher, as someone who does this kind of for a living, I have noticed that the hardest people to reach are the people who have been listening to the gospel for so long. They're the people who've heard sermon after sermon after sermon, and as they have failed to respond to what they have heard, the calluses around their heart get thicker and thicker and thicker. The easiest people to reach with the gospel and the good news of Christ and the teachings of Jesus are people who have not heard it before, are people who are new in the faith, and they are hungry, and they're exercising, and they're doing what they need to do. I really hope, people, that we don't fall into this category of fat Christians. Heard all the sermons, been all the Bible studies, read all the books, we can quote the book by heart, and yet our lives still remain exactly the way they have always been. Let's get exercising. Let's eat. Let's just not go to church on Sunday and open our mouths like a little bird in the nest. He opens his mouth and says, feed me, feed me, feed me. And the mom comes and drops a worm in his mouth. And we don't really be like that. We want to eat. We want to exercise. We want to keep fit in our faith by doing what we've heard through the Word. If we don't do that, we could end up becoming spiritually cast, and we will need to be restored again. We'll talk about that next time. But guys, go have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.